to supervise the restoration of this house. Right? Some of them might include removing squirrels on the attic.
Make room for the bats.
Updating replacing the interior of the original summer kitchen and the unusual indoor outhouse. I don't know if any of you knew that or not, but he'll talk about it. And today, of course, we have nice restrooms back there and a catering kitchen. These are just small parts of everything that Mike had to do. So with that, welcome, Mike.
Well, as Margaret said, my name is Mike Schultz. I was the superintendent on the job, and we started in 2003. And the day when I walked in the door, I thought, man, this is one grand old house, and it needs to be restored. And not that there was a lot wrong with the house. The doors were fine, the floors looked pretty good. I mean, there were things that had to be done to it that, well, that's why we were here. But as we got started, we looked around and surveyed what was the worst. And the worst part was the addition put on to the house. And from what the Historical Society had told me, it was an addition that was put on 1 year after this house was built. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me, because I don't know for sure, but this is what I was told. Rita McDonald was the architect. Natasha Wiener was the project manager from the Historical Society. That's what I can remember. And this was 12 years ago, so I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday morning. So I'm trying to recall everything as good as I can. When we got here, first of all, we went out into that area out there because, like I said, that needed the most attention. It never had the handicap ramp that it has now. You'd walk out the door, and it was like a 6, 8, 10-inch step going down. And that whole room was just a disaster. I don't know what they used it for. We're kind of figuring that it was for butchering at one time, because there was 2 sinks where the kitchen sink is right now, and there was a cement floor in there, and with the drain. So we're just kind of figuring maybe it was used for butchering chickens or whatever. But that was all tore out because the floors were so bad, and the roof was in rough shape, and there were no footings underneath anything out there. Whoever had built the addition just set it on maybe block about that tall, and there was nothing underneath it, so that's why it was kind of pulling away, and the floors were sagging, and we tore the whole thing apart. We jacked up the walls and supported the roof, and guys came in and dug by hand the footings all the way around. It went down below the frost line, and the cement guys came in, and a lot of the rock that was tore out, the Historical Society made us put back on because it was part of the house itself, and it did make sense, but it just took a long time. Let's see. All kinds of notes here, but if they're right or not, I don't know, you gotta let me know. But the walls, when we lifted them up, we tore out all the floor joists that were in there. And we believe that when this house was first built, that was kind of the dumping grounds out there. So when they were done with something, they just fired out the door. Well, we found this old Lee and Perrins bottle. It had to be from 1865, 66, 67, and it still had the wire cap on top. And all the stuff we gave to Natasha from the Historical Society so that they could put it in their file. But I kind of wish that everybody from Dakota County would have kind of put the pressure on them, and you guys would have been able to save all this stuff and keep it. But they have it on log down there in one of their big storerooms. Okay. Then the next thing we went to was the sprinkler guys came in, and they had started, or the heating guys, they all did the same thing. They did the fire protection, they did the boilers, the ductwork, the plumbing. It was a plumbing and heating outfit. But that was a lot of work because they had to dig a trench from the street into the house and hook up the big water main for the standpipe. And all these walls, when you see these heads around, they all had to be cut in. So we had guys cut the walls, and the piping is all inside the wall. So it was quite a job, and to get some of the heat runs and things like that inside the buildings. So the plaster, he had quite a bit of work to do after we were done tearing everything apart and saw cutting things up. When back in the addition back there, after we got inside here, we walked down a little bit farther, and right next to if it was where they butchered or whatever, there was another little room that maybe was 5 feet wide by 12 feet long, and there were all kinds of little pieces of kindling. So we figured that was the kindling room for the wood stove in the kitchen, and all the wood pieces were still in there. And nobody had ever cleaned it out, and there were plenty of critters living in there with it. When we cleaned that wood out, I'll tell you what, there were legs, heads, and you name it, all kinds of bones in there. But after that, the next room, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with the old bathroom in this house. Did you see it before it was tore apart? That was the most unique thing in this house. Well, not the most. But anyhow, you'd go back down that hallway, and it was the last room on the left. You'd go in there, and there was a tool holder. So when you had to go do your duty, you'd go into that bathroom, and they had a big lever that when you were done, you'd pull the lever, and they say they either had lye or it was sand or whatever in there. And when you pulled the lever, it would fall down on top of whatever you had done. And when you were finished, it fell onto a little wagon that was down below. And if you look in the block wall on the outside, they made a silhouette like it was a cave or a tunnel or whatever for this wagon to go into. So they must have backed the wagon in, and how often they cleaned it out, I have no idea, but it was pulled out by horses or humans or whatever it was. But that was quite the place to see it. I wish I would have taken pictures, but I never did, so nobody really knows what it looks like anymore. Okay. Well, when the mechanical guys were here and the electricians were here, like I said, all the walls had to be cut out to run all their piping. The electricians had to do a lot of cutting in the walls to get their switches in, ceiling lights, wall sconces, outlets. I don't know if there were too many outlets ever put in, but I know for the switches, for the lights and stuff. So when we were cutting upstairs in, I think it's Mary's bedroom upstairs, up in that bedroom over there, the two wall sconces that face the street, when the guys were cutting channels in there to run the wires, there was all kinds of debris that kind of fell out. So we analyzed it a little bit, and here was all kinds of little newspaper clippings from 1880, 1881. They're talking about the Civil War. It may start, and the trouble in Hastings, and it was only pieces about that big around, so we really couldn't get much out of it, but it was kind of interesting to read. And we did find a date on there. I think it was 1860 or something like that. But they were talking about some old drunk that was down here in Hastings, and he was always causing a lot of trouble. And, well, I guess, you know, when you're in construction, you think that's funnier than the Civil War. At least we did at the time. all these walls, when they were plastered, they are 20 inches thick, I believe. And for some reason, and I don't really understand why, but they embedded wood about every 2 feet, 30 inches. I can't remember exactly what it was, but we don't really know why they did it. It might have been for the wire mesh plastering, but there wasn't a lot of wire mesh in the house. It was always in the corners, and I don't know if that was put in somewhere along the line after or what, but all the plaster was mixed with horsehair. They said, this is what the architects were telling us, that this was what they used for strengthening the plaster. And, but I thought it was kind of interesting why they would do that, and I thought, well, maybe with these tall ceilings, they put a row in the bottom, and then as they go up, maybe they put a level on it, and just to make sure the walls were getting plumb. Otherwise, I have no idea why they were in there, because it was a one-by that, I suppose they were in there maybe 3-4 inches, and they were about rough home sawn stuff, and that was the thing that stuck out the farthest on the wall all the time. Anybody got any questions? I'm rambling on here, I don't know. We did do a lot of patching of floors, like in the bathrooms, in the kitchen. Most of the floors were in pretty good shape, and I was told somewhere along the line that all these floors were probably replaced in 20s, 30s, whenever, because I think they were all the white pine floors like upstairs, and you can always tell the white pine floors are pretty soft. If you go between the 2 bedrooms up there to walk through, they're all ground down from people turning their shoe on it, and that's how soft the lumber was. But these were put in somewhere along the line, and we had everything refinished and revarnished, and that's why they look so darn good. You know, a house that old.
You said the walls are 20 inches thick,
Yeah.
so there's not a 20-inch stud in there.
No.
So what's the?
It's all stone.
Oh, it's stone.
It's stone. On the outside walls, if I can remember right, I believe the stones are somewhere right along about that big, you know, all different sizes, of course, and then the brick veneer on the outside, or the stone on the outside, is about that big. But that wall right there, yeah, that one's stone. Excuse me, the next one's stone, and I don't know, they were all the bearing. This one was stone for sure, because they were bearing walls to carry the joists when they run across. And I don't know, those guys must have worked their tail off with the equipment that they had, other than a couple of donkeys, I suppose, with a wheel or a well wheel to pull that up. I don't know how else they would have done it, because some of those outside stones are huge. You know, there's no man would ever pull it up by himself unless they were pulling on a rope with a bunch of guys, I guess.
Well, the reason it's built that way is because the people who built this place were German stonemasons.
Yeah.
And they built it up exactly the way you build a castle on the Rhine.
Right,
It's not
right.
only that kind of architecture, it's that kind of craftsmanship.
Yeah. And I believe all the stone came out from the quarry around here somewhere
Well,
nearby.
probably the quarry that's now Town Field.
Mhm.
No, it came from between Red Wing and Hastings.
That's what I was
Okay,
told,
is that
yeah.
the quarry then, that's
Yeah.
down by the river valley?
Yeah.
Well,
Because there's another quarry down there.
Mhm. But boy, they did one heck of a job, I'll tell you that. For this house being this old, you walk around, there's no sags, there's no, I mean, deviation to the floor. That's, you get in some of the older homes that are built in the 20s, 30s, you know, you can drop a marble and people get away from you, but this place, it was built well. And the trim, I have no idea if that was made somewhere out east and then shipped by rail here. It's hard to say. I mean, in the 1800s, there really wasn't a lot of,
we know from, because of all the letters that the contractor wrote to Mr. LeDuc,
Mhm.
Eric Cogshell,
Mhm.
and Stiles, Tuttle did most of these windows and work in here, so they did it locally.
Oh, so
This woodwork was done locally.
did LeDuc own a lumber mill?
No.
He did? He did? I thought there was somewhere I
You
read
own a
that.
flour mill,
He what?
a flour
A
mill.
flour mill?
Yeah.
There are big lumber mills right in town.
I know.
Yeah.
Luke wanted the place all finished out in white pine,
Yeah.
because he was a big booster for Minnesota, so he
Mhm.
wanted it
Mhm.
all local materials.
Well, that's so funny because when there was some patching we had to do out on the outside bay, on the outside, and I don't know how we pulled that board off or whatever it was, but the sawdust just poured out of that thing. And I thought, what in the heck? Are there that many chipmunks or squirrels or whatever crawling around in there all these years and have everything gnawed up on the inside? Well, when it come to find it was all fine sawdust, so we figured, well, it must have come from the sawmill, and they dumped it from the top when they built it and capped the bottom off and used it for insulation. But it's all on that bay out there, and I don't know, we never tore a lot of the other ones apart, so if they're filled that way, I have no idea. And the walls, of course, like I said, they're all stone on the outside. And why that one up in Mary's room would have had studs, I don't know, there was newspapers and all kinds of material in there, whether it was some kind of insulation that they used at that time, I couldn't really tell you, but, it was just kind of funny to find that stuff.
Well, a good part of it was they had a devil of a time heating this place.
Oh, I know.
Because it was designed to be heated just by fireplaces,
Right.
which is incredibly inefficient.
Right,
And when this house was new, it got really cold here in the winter, that was still part of the little ice age, so.
well, we were always told that these fireplaces were all put in somewhere in the 20s, 30s, or whatever, because the original ones were wood, and they were probably pretty much burned off.
Yeah, they converted them to coal.
Yeah, they were all charred up where, you know, nobody wanted to look at it anymore, so somebody put the marble ones in, and I don't know what time.
Carol Simmons did those.
Oh, he did?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, he wanted them, he said Mr. LeDuc would have wanted those marble ones at some point. This one came from his house in New York.
Oh, is that right?
His ancestors,
Oh,
the Pringles, and then the one in, the library and the dining room came from a mansion in Redmond.
so were they all wood? I mean,
They were
I'm
wood.
sure they
were just
were.
like the ones upstairs.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Pretty plain, because he ran out of money, right?
Yeah, exactly, the place never really got finished off the way it was supposed to.
Yeah.
The way they dreamed about
Oh, yeah,
it, yeah.
I mean, it's not bad, but
No.
it's not the way they imagined it.
Mhm.
Did you have to refinish the woodwork or the shutters or anything?
I think the painters, when they came in there was an older guy that came in and he always talked about shellac.
Yeah.
He said when the shellac is on there, and I don't know if he used lacquer thinner, I believe that's what it was, and then they rub that, and all those little dots that you'd see from time, I don't know, it was either from the house not being warm enough or too cold or change the temperature, but when you rub them, a lot of those things would go away. And God, I wish I could think of his name, but he was, he knew his stuff, and he did that, rubbed most of the woodwork, and then I think they put another coat of varnish on everything, or most of it, I should say. I don't know if they extend what the contract read anymore as far as doing the shutters and, you know, the windows, I believe, were all painted long time ago, 12 years, I can't remember exactly what
Do
they
you
all did.
remember how difficult it was to remove all of the wallpaper out of here? Because everything had been
Yeah.
wallpapered, was that tough? Sometimes it's hard.
That's
to-
right, I forgot all about that. There was a guy steaming on the wallpaper for probably, I don't know, a month or two, I can't remember, but
Yeah.
he had a pile all the time, and he'd be moving along with his little steamer and taking it all off, and then, the plasterers came in, and like I said, where all the channels were cut in, and some of the ceilings, I know they skim coated a lot of them, and some of them maybe in that, is that considered the dining room over there? that one, if the ceiling was pretty bad, that they didn't even wanna tackle it. I'd have to take a look at it, but they'd use a wire mesh and they'd go over it and then they'd feather everything out and plaster it, and then the painters would come in and paint everything. And I mean, you look at these walls, I mean, they're nicer than a new home. They are so, they look so good, and,
Well,
they did a nice job.
I think, didn't they put canvas on everything so that the cracks wouldn't come back?
Well-
Under the paint, everything
And the
was like,
ceilings, yeah.
and
And
the
the
walls.
walls.
And the
At
walls,
least,
it's
at
all
least on certain
canvas.
of the walls.
Oh, yeah. Well, they did something then, but, yeah, they did come out very nice. I mean, you look at the ceilings, there's no crack on this one at all, so.
The canvas.
Okay, so you put in the catering kitchen, right?
Pardon me?
You put in the catering kitchen, right?
The catering?
The kitchen? You put in our modern day, our catering kitchen, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so I have just a technical question, because now we're doing a lot more events and we're always frying our electric. And everybody I talk to is like, we're not sure what's under there. They seem to think that when it was renovated, there was a hole that was punched through the foundation, electric was brought in, and then it was sealed again. Do you have any recollection how it was done? Because now they're saying, well, we'd love to get you some more, but
We need more outlets, yeah.
you
Yeah.
know where it came through, it's
the
right,
far
by the
end.
steps down there.
Yeah, nobody wants to climb through there.
I don't blame them, you should have seen the guys grumble, they're gonna crawl back in there. I mean, there's rocks and varmints, whatever, you know, they were crawling around in there for years, but
But if
the
they
titters
did
had to
climb
go in
through
there.
there, is it sealed off again now? So they'd have to.
I
break
think
through
everything
again?
was sealed off from the inside when the joists were put down, because it was a lot easier to do it from that side. When we had the floor tore out, we had beams supporting the roofs, so that carried the load, and everything was just freestanding. And we did everything in the winter time, so the whole outside of that addition was enclosed with plastic, and then temp heat was put in there, so we'd have heat for pouring footings and for laying the block on the inside and then putting the veneer on the outside. But
Brought a lot, okay.
well, you can cut a hole, you can cut a hole in the floor and look, and I can show you where it goes through, because I can see it. I showed my wife when we were down there, I said, these were these guys had to crawl in, and they did not like it. But,
I can only imagine.
well, the cistern is right
Sure.
on the other side of it, so I
Right.
think that's basically why everything ran through there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of head scratching when you have nothing but stone walls, how to cut things in and start running, especially the tinners, when you've got to run a ductwork like that one up there. I believe that one was cut in the two in Williams' room. Just to get it up to it, you can always cut a hole, but you gotta get something to run to it and to find a space to get it up there. So there was quite a bit of thinking and planning involved with it, and I think it turned out okay. It seems to be comfortable, and I'm under the gun here, so I'm sweating a little bit more, but,
Turn out okay, except for when you have to put on a dinner.
what's that?
Turn out okay, except for when you have to put on a dinner.
Yeah, well, you gotta pray for nice weather and have it outside.
Yes, thank you for the air conditioning.
Yes.
I think
We
that was
really- we really
Ryan,
appreciate that.
I think Ryan Mechanical did it from Red Wing, I believe it. I tried to look everywhere at home. I had a small plan of the house and I could not find, you know, the big blueprints you can't carry around, so I had a small version of it. So when we'd walk around and look at things in different rooms, you didn't have to carry a great big drawing. And I know I saved it, and I'll be darned if I could find it. I had all my notes on there and everything, or lies, I suppose.
No exaggeration.
Where am I at here? Well, I gotta tell you the story about in Bill's room. I got to know him pretty good for a long time, so I just call him Bill. But anyhow, we had to pull the bookcases out, take all the books were all, I think they were still in there, so we either Historical Society pulled them out or somebody from the Court County pulled them out. I don't know who did. But anyhow, when they were all empty, we had to pull them away so the painters, first the plasterers would get behind there, and then the painters could get back there and do their work. Well, we pulled the first one out with no problem, but we pulled the one in the southeast corner out, and lo and behold, I looked down there, and there's a letter laying down on the bottom. So we had no idea what it was, when it was sent or whatever, but it was from Augustine Gardner. I believe that's Vincent, right?
Yes.
Who is Minnie's husband. So this letter was dated in the 1880s of some time. I looked at that thing and I thought, oh my God, people are really gonna be interested in this one. Well, all the guys on the job, I told them at lunchtime I gotta read something to them. And it was a 5-page letter written to Minnie. It was addressed to Bill and Mary LeDuc. But in the letter, it was right around Christmas time, so maybe it took 2 months to get here, I don't know, or maybe it was 2 months later. But he had written in the letter, and I'll never forget it. I should have copied it because I would have been able to show it to you people, but I never did copy it. And he wrote about how he wished he'd be back at the LeDuc residence for Christmas. And just like all those stories you read, where you have boar's head for Christmas dinner, or ham, or plum pudding he had in there. And another thing that he had said, and these are just a few things that I can remember when I read the letter to everybody, he said, I wish you people that have so much back here at the LeDuc residence would go down to the river and give some stuff, you know, some dinner or some money or whatever to the poor people that are living down by the river. And I thought, man, things haven't changed in 150 years. I mean, they're probably not down by the river, but they're still around, and they all need stuff too. But I turned that letter over to Natasha, and I know it's down there in the History Center somewhere. So if somebody, Margaret,
We have a copy of it.
oh, you do?
Yeah,
You have it here?
I quoted on it in one of our, yeah.
Oh.
I have a copy of it at home, and there should be one here. Joan had it, and we made copies of it.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you got
And
copies of it,
Yeah.
because I was worried that it would get buried down there.
I
And
know. But
in
we
that-
can, we have access to all of those documents anyways.
I did call a woman, her name was Lori, I believe, down there at the Historical Society, because I wanted to bring it with me if you didn't have a copy, but
Oh,
she
yeah.
said, you can look on the website, and I thought, okay, I'll look on the website. Well, I started looking, and there was so much stuff on the LeDuc house, the people, the residents and everything. I gave up.
If I would've known you were gonna talk about it, I would've brought it to you.
I think, am I right on some of that stuff?
He described Christmas really beautifully.
Yeah, and he was in England at the time. I believe that's what it said in the letter.
I think he was talking about, some English traditions, but he
Oh.
himself wasn't in England.
Okay,
Mhm.
I lied to all the guys.
Where was he sending the letter from?
Well, from my memory, it was that he was writing about Christmas and, but he was here.
Oh, he what? Yeah, but why would he send the letter then? Oh, you
Well,
mean
unless
maybe
he
in...
and Minnie were living in New York at the
Yeah,
time, he
yeah.
sent it to his in-laws.
Okay, okay. See, I always thought he was over in England or something,
Yeah, yeah.
and far away, and he had sent the letter to the
Mhm.
LeDucs, and, you know, I explained that he'd sooner be here than over there or whatever, but that letter was fantastic to read and all. You know, and you can get 10, 15, 20 construction guys to be quiet. It's pretty tough, especially at lunchtime, because they didn't want to waste their lunch.
That's awesome.
We did find a couple other things. There really wasn't a whole lot. We found that Lee and Perrin's bottle that I told you about, and then there were 2 books that it was either Alice's or Florence. They were from the Hastings High School, and we looked at them, you know, looked them over and stuff like that. We found them out in the rafters, out in that edition out there, and we turned them over to Natasha too. And the Historical Society there, you never get anything back once it's there. So that's why I just hated and I can't think of the guy's name that was for Dakota County at the time, but I always told him about it, and, well, maybe
Chad?
never did anything.
No, it was before Chad, it was, Mark Rydell.
I couldn't tell you, I have no idea. Let's see. I really don't have much more.
You replaced the porches, didn't you?
Oh yeah, the porches, this one was just totally gone, so we replaced all the porch. It's not the way it was originally, and I really don't understand why the Historical Society wanted us to build it the way we did, but that was on the drawings, so that's what we did, because years ago, they were all the balusters all the way around, and it was all open, but somebody must have filled it in at one time, and, well, that's the way it was, that's the way it went back in.
So why are there green shutters? That's my question.
Why what?
I keep looking at the carriage barn and going, why are the shutters green on the carriage barn? Do you know?
On
the carriage barn.
Yeah.
Every time I look at the carriage barn, I go,
That green color that's on there now, that was put on after they repaired them because the squirrels chewed through them. And
that's all
the
right.
wrong color, that's the wrong color green, it was a different, more
it's more like a
historic green, yeah.
I didn't have anything to
But
do with
that
the
was
barn.
that was after Mike's time.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to do with
No,
the
you
barn,
didn't.
or the, I don't know if it was the machine shed or a granary or whatever
Ice
it's called.
house.
The ice house, nothing. I mean,
You don't
that
want
was-
the original green though, cause it was full of arsenic, green paint in the 19th century,
Oh.
and heavy
Yeah, but I wish they
amount
could.
of arsenic.
well, it's on the list for the new roof.
Oh.
They said they're gonna bring in a crane next year, we gotta get a new roof. And so they're gonna be bringing in all the stuff, and I said, boy, if we could get that
Yeah.
full of paint,
So-
then I'd really appreciate it. So
Well,
I
we did-
think they're going for it.
The only thing we really had to reinforce then when we were upstairs was in that, I don't know what it actually was, that storeroom up there where you take a couple steps down from the third
Yes.
floor.
Oh, yeah,
That's called the attic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were up there, we had two massive beams that we had to squeeze in through the windows into that room and install those, but otherwise, man, there was, structurally not a whole lot that had to be done to the house. It was mostly cosmetic, you know, cause it needed paint, it needed plaster, it needed, it didn't really need the sprinkler system, but ADA, you know, you have to put it in, and,
It's good to have it, isn't it, Amy?
Because you never know when the site manager will trip the smoke.
well, you were talking about that kitchen, are you doing the cooking or what?
Well, one day very recently, some butter slid off of a scone pan and it tripped the smoke alarms.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty fun.
Well, now as you all know, everything out there is brand new. The bathrooms took away everything that was original to the house in there. And we always kind of, well, we didn't have any say in it, but we always kind of wished that the bathrooms would have been put out in the granary or something and left that room exposed with the old bathroom the way it was. You know, people would have walked in there and said, what in the world was this? Those levers on there? When you pull that thing, oh, whatever, to leave the sand or lye fall down.
I can't believe MHS didn't take pictures of that.
I
That's
know
so
it.
ridiculous.
They might have.
Well, we asked Rita Goodrich, she was gonna look.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah,
remember Rita Goodrich?
yeah, I do. Rita was a very nice gal.
Yeah.
But we just got the wallpaper. They brought it, they did give us that back.
They,
And so,
they probably got too many samples later
they
on.
have this huge box and they're probably sitting in a closet. So we have that, and so, I mean, it's a matter of time, but we'd love to get, it framed in each of the rooms, so you see.
Cool, like,
Yeah.
Do you still talk to Rita?
I should, because I wanted to follow up on that. We think it would be fun, if we could find that picture Amy and I were talking about, wouldn't it be cool to have that in the ladies' room? Or, that's what's replaced that.
Well, and she is involved in the roof project.
Oh, she is.
Good,
Yeah.
ask her
Yeah.
that, Amy.
That's
Oh,
for
yeah.
McDonald.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think it was
Good.
McDonald,
You can ask
McDonald,
her.
or?
Ask her picture. Yeah, oh, it's greatly, and well, then we're also talking to her about the gazebo,
Mm.
but we don't wanna do the gazebo until the roof's done because, tossing all sorts of, wood off the
my
Or
memory
a
serves me right,
gazebo that we might.
that gazebo was all in parts out in the granary or down in the basement somewhere.
Yeah, and you tear it up.
Was that where it was? I know I've been through all the buildings, because there were some things in the bottom of the barn down below that they said we could maybe use on the house, and I don't know what it was anymore, but I was down in there too. So there weren't many places that I didn't get in.
I
but,
bet.
Well, after 18 months, you gotta start looking around.
Yeah.
Okay, now I gotta tell you one other story. My wife and I, we were out in Denver. This was a number of years back, maybe 6, 8, something like that. And I had a Winona State jersey on. My son had gone to college in Winona, and I was wearing a jersey. And we were in an antique store out there, wandering around, and we walked into this store, and this guy, I'm sure he was probably in his 70s at that time, and he looked at us and he said, "Are you from Winona?" And I said, "No." My son had gone to college there, and we talked back and forth. And he said, "Well, I'm originally from Hastings." And I said, "Hastings? We just finished the LeDuc house, or we were in the process of finishing it." And so we started talking. Here, he was the lawn caretaker guy for Simmons. And he'd been in this house from top to bottom. He said there was no place in this house that I wasn't. And I said to him, "Listen, all these people talk about this tunnel. I want to know, because I was here for 18 months or 12 months or 14 months, whatever it was. I walked around in that basement, and I mean, I can pick out something that's been patched." And I thought, if it's been patched, I'm going to find it. Well, I walked around down there, and of course, there's been so many times where somebody's come in and tuck pointed the thing, and there's new cement in the joints, and I couldn't find it. So when I was talking to him, and I said, "Was there really a tunnel?" And he said, "There is a tunnel." And I used to play in it. He said, not necessarily play in it, but he was a young man, and they'd fool around in there. And so to this day, I believe there is a tunnel, but I'll be darned. And that's why I went down to the basement, because I wanted to go one more time, walk around down there. And I thought, the only place that would be feasible would be down in that corner, which goes over there.
It's over there, and, well, this is my theory.
Okay.
There's a woman who's in her late 90s now, and her mother worked for Carol Simmons for
Okay.
years, Agnes Grosskopf. And her daughter was here one day, and we were talking about that, and she said, "It was there, I can show you right where it was." And if you go down there, go back down, where they put all the electricity and the telephone stuff and everything on that wall, it's on the, I can turn it on
this
the
wall.
house. Where's the south?
South to south.
That's where you were pointing, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
That's what,
It-
well, I mean, that would make the most
But if you
sense.
look to it, sort of, and that, there's a cave that comes in from the river, and there's stories about guys that came in, that, Charles Match ended up in the basement down here, he says, and so, I
Well,
believe it.
I
believe
am-
it. I believe
I
it.
believe it.
I just
I
wish we
believe it
could
too.
get some kind of equipment down there that could sort of tell, you know?
Exactly, it's common, don't you think?
Yeah.
They'll come up with some.
My father-in-law's
infrared or-
Oh, what?
my father-in-law is an East Sider, and he's been here for 80 years. A lot of them know him, and he swears to God there was a tunnel that come from Lake Isabel because they used to climb in it all the time. You probably know about the stories of them climbing
Not
in it.
about Lake Isabel.
There's a tunnel down there, and Lake Isabel, there's a couple of them. But they said they used to be able to come up.
Actually caves.
Yeah, well, they used to.
Nobody
We swear
does.
there was a tunnel because he said people would go up this tunnel and come to the LeDuc house.
Hmm.
And I said, well, where is
That's
this
from the
tunnel?
Vermilion River, though.
And he said there was always a tunnel. I mean, this
Well-
town, the old
Well,
folks that say swear by
I
it.
think we have to have a story contest about
Oh yeah, we could write a book.
We can offer the board for somebody who can
Yeah,
find
the biggest tunnel, and you can join, Mike.
I would love it, because I'd like to see that tunnel, believe me. Well, when that guy said there was one, I thought,
That's
there
cool. Did you
was.
get it?
No, we didn't.
Oh.
And we went back last year and we went up and down Broadway because that's where the antique stores were. And we couldn't pick out the store that we thought he would be in.
And so many of them are gone.
And, yeah, we just thought, well, why would we ask his name? No one would ever care, you know, and usually we ask people's names, and I just could kick myself because
But
he
he
was
said he,
16 when he was here,
Yeah.
and he said the room upstairs was full of chairs. He used to haul the chairs up
Which
there.
is true.
And he said, Simmons said he could have a chair. And he said the chair that I wanted was way back in the corner, and I'd dig all the chairs out of the way so I could get that one chair that I wanted. And he had other stories about Mr. Simmons, but I won't share those.
Sure, I'm
right
sure.
now. But, and I said, you should write a book about it. And he goes, no, because there's still family around here, and I don't want to offend anybody. And I said, but it's history, you know, it's just
Well, his
what
family
happened.
wanted his story told, they, you know, they probably would.
well, somebody might know who this guy was, I don't know, he'd be probably well in his 80s, but if there'd be somebody around here in their 80s that knew whoever took care of the
I was
grounds out there.
16 years old at the time, yeah, maybe would remember.
There've been a lot of young, he had a lot of caretaker guys that, and then they would stay here. I'm sure you would hear the stories all the time, still.
Well, we
people-
have a neighbor kitty corner from us. I was telling you, we have a neighbor kitty corner from us that he and his brother, I'm coming home from work one day and I'm walking along and Rob goes, you like working over there? I said, oh yeah, I love this, great job. And he goes, me and my brother laid that brick floor in the basement. I was like, I swear, so many people have connections to this.
It's really neat.
Did they use that basement fireplace for cooking in the summertime, or does anybody know what it was?
Our theory is that that was where see that part that you tore off was the summer kitchen. And so they used that for cooking in the summer, panning and everything. And I think before that, they used the downstairs, that
They
fireplace
used
for
it,
that.
they kept a fire going there so their fruits and vegetables wouldn't freeze that they stored down there.
And so if they put that addition on like a year after they built it, so they used it very short term.
Well, or they maybe still used it
In the winter, probably.
even during the winter for that. We've looked through some of the journals and letters to try to find that, because it's sort of fun to find how they mention things, like the chickens that got down in the cellar, the mama chicken that took her babies down there, but, never really found any proof of that fireplace or them talking about it, so on our part, it's a little speculation too. And I just wanted to tell you, Mike, that Harold Simmons refinished furniture, so that place wasn't a butcher shop, that was his furniture refinishing area.
Oh, that
With those
makes sense.
sinks and that floor and all
The
that.
story was much
Yeah.
better.
I know it was, wasn't it? But I didn't want all the.
That was good that you.
Well, I didn't know, that's why
I
there's a
just
lot of
don't like
things,
things to be,
Right,
you know,
right, true.
history is sort of.
and that does make sense, And I'm pretty sure we jackhammered all that out, because we almost had to, we put all new floor joists and everything beams down underneath. Boy, I don't know.
Mike?
Yep.
Right outside of Minnie's room,
Mhm.
on each side of the door, there are openings, and there are hinges on those doors
The
Upstairs.
panels.
Mhm.
upstairs, so do you know what they were for? And they do not go, they go from the top of the door to the bottom of the door, so they couldn't be a dumb leader or a clothes chute.
So that's that little room off the, where you go up the stairway you're talking?
Right above here.
You know,
Oh, I thought this was Bill's room was right up here.
No, this is.
that's over there.
Oh,
Bill's over there.
his, I thought that was Mary's, I didn't know
Well,
they
they're
slept.
not-
Yeah, they shared a room.
Oh, they did, I thought they slept separate, I didn't,
No,
that's what I was told at one time, so.
I think that's incorrect.
Okay, so this was Minnie's straight up there.
Yeah, Minnie
All
and
right.
Vincent's room.
Where's that book that I have? This was, and maybe you told me at one time they had a stairway that came down from the
There
chapel.
was speculation about that.
Yeah, well, in this book, I went through it picture by picture, and when we always looked at the woodwork up there, somebody cut it off, and I think that doorway was real wide, because when you look, that's gotta be her room right there, right?
This one here, or this room?
This room, right here. See where that curtain is? I think that doorway was real wide because you'd never get that picture in there. And I think what somebody did is they cut that doorway off and they moved it over. That's why you have that space when you open up those little doorways, and on each side you can, listen, when I had time, I'd crawl around with a flashlight and I'd pound on the walls because I thought maybe Bill left me something. I gotta find it. So then when I found that little opening on the bottom, which everybody knows about because everybody knew about it after I found it, I think they shortened that doorway up. That's the only thing I can think of, because that picture, they would have never been able to take it, and the doorway isn't that wide right now. Years ago, I think it was. I don't think there was a door on it, and I think it was real wide, and that's why that curtain was there. You take a look at it.
Well, school children
right here.
love that.
Oh,
Well,
There's speculation about it.
Actually, we believe that this picture isn't even taken here in this house.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
this is the picture that we don't believe.
But
is-
that radiator is right there. But there was a window on each side, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe that's why the doorway wasn't shortened. Well, I thought, why in the world would they put a picture in this book of the house? So I stared at that thing for so many times, and I thought, God, that's the reason why that casing on top, you can see there's one straight cut all the way through, and they had taken the head off, and then they just moved the side jambs
Are you
right up.
talking about the bedroom
Right up there, that doorway
Mm-hmm.
coming into it. Take a look at it.
I
once.
will, I'll have to look at that.
My question is, when are you gonna make it so people can go up to the 3rd floor?
Never happened.
That is so fun up there.
I know, isn't it? Everybody
I
goes
wanted
to
to
go
have
up there.
if people joined at the 1,000 level, it's called the tower level. I thought people that paid $1,000 should at least be able to go up there. Incentive.
Yeah.
It
You know,
is
for
fun.
summer camp, the kids sign up.
It is so nice up
And
there.
so they can
It is
go up
fun.
there, all of our kids' costumes are up there and everything.
Or if you volunteer to help put up Christmas decorations, you get to go up there.
Okay.
Yeah, Christmas decorations.
Well, volunteers in general, kind of,
Yeah.
But it seems like going to the Glensheen Manor, it's going to the 3rd